and welcome back to West Texas. You join me as I'm just working on cleaning out and feeding the cows. You may or may not have watched my last video. It was a time lapse, so I appreciate some of you may not have watched that because not everyone likes time lapses. So the money has gone up a bit as in the time lapse kind of yesterday afternoon in game. I did a bunch of contracts, including that big potato planting contract that I mentioned in the last proper video from this series, and just to show you on the map. So we planted field 42 with potatoes using 3 white tractors. That was kind of fun. We got Courseplay working and got it auto refilling from a lorry stacked with pallets of potatoes. That was good work, good fun. We also did contracts on field 1, field 7, which was a big round field, and I found actually that Courseplay works really well on some of these round fields. So I need to see why it doesn't work on our round field when I tested it. We did field 15. I think I did 20, 17, 19, maybe 18 as well. I did a bunch of contracts, about 7 or 8, and we made a load of money, which is really cool because we still have some stuff we need to buy. We still need to get the TMR mixing silo once we've got the components for TMR. We only need to do something for harvesting the cotton. I don't know whether that's going to be us buying a cotton harvester or leasing it. Haven't decided on that one yet. We're just going to chuck this feed over into the feed alley. The cows just about made it through the night with the bales that I gave them yesterday. We have a small stack of bales left, and as of yet the grass has not dried into hay, which is surprising because we've had good drying conditions all through yesterday and through the night. I'm kind of confused by that. We'll just have to keep an eye on it. I think I missed a water off. No, I didn't. And so once we've got the hay dried and picked up, we need to put the BGA in that we were speaking about. We're going to need to get a tanker to move some slurry about because we have quite a lot of slurry already. Cool. We haven't had the cows that many days, and each pen has got, you know, the best part of 100,000 litres in it. These guys desperately need some feed. So we're going to need to buy a tanker to move the slurry around once we've got the BGA in. It would be really cool if there was a way of kind of linking up the slurry pits direct to the BGA. You may end up setting the auto drive to cart slurry. I don't know. I'm torn between getting a smaller trailer, putting it on the back of one of the tractors, and using auto drive to cart slurry for me, or just buying a big tanker, put it on the back of the semi and run that backwards and forwards a few times. So we'll dump this in. Hello. Out of the way. We'll dump this in their feed as well. They literally have the tiniest bit visible. And then I need to load up the feed wagon with the hay that we've got left, but I won't put you through watching that. I don't want the video to just be about sorting cows. The other job we have to do today is to plant the cotton. That is slightly dependent on the soil temps coming up. See, the cows do not have a lot of food left, but they're clean and they've got water now. Anyway, I'm doing that rambling thing again. So we need a soil temp of 61. We're at 55. We're into the planting season. Sorry for jumping in and out of this menu, but the weather's not that hot today or tomorrow. So I'm not sure whether to just stick, or I'll leave that bit. Let's see if we can get it on the fly. Nope. Not sure whether to just stick the cotton in the ground and it should germinate when the temps come up, or whether we wait. The other job we have, depending on if the corn is up yet, is that needs a little bit more fertilizer. So we need to spray some liquid fertilizer on that. I need to talk to the guys from Meridian actually, or another similar supplier, to get a holding tank in so that we can have liquid fertilizer on the farm easily to hand. There, the Massey's looking pretty dirty after its day yesterday running around the auger wagon, looking after keeping the seeders full of seed. We had quite a lot of potatoes left because I overbrought massively. They will be going into TMR for the cows once we've got the other components of TMR. So we need to get our hay supply sorted, and we're going to need to get some silage sorted. I generally don't put straw in my TMR. We'll then be ditching the Anderson, because I can't play around with that because it's a DLC feed mixer. I'm going to put in the feed mixing silo. We may still buy a feed mixer, trailed feed mixer, so I can play around with the mixing ratios. Anyway, I'm going to get these cows fed, and then we will be back. We will either be windrowing the hay to get that. I'm going to do a combination of bales and the loading wagon, or we will be planting cotton, or we will be fertilizing corn. Who knows? You'll see in a second. I will be back in, I don't know, 10 minutes or so. Catch you in a bit. The cows all fed. We're going to go and take a quick look at some of our fields before we get into some work, because the seasons wizards have been helpful, and we have hay. The grass finished drying while I was dealing with cows. So you'll see as we come around the corner here, we have some nice fields of golden hay. Try to avoid driving through any of it. I just want to go over and take a look at the corn we planted and the triticale we've got growing. And yes, I could just check in the map or jump over there, but I don't use this little guy much, so we'll run him over. So let's have a look. The triticale has germinated, but I don't see much sign of growth yet. The grass is looking good. It's still growing. It's not quite ready to cut yet. As I said previously, it does need some lime. We were just accepting that this time. Actually, a few weeds cropping up as well. Probably won't bother tackling those. I generally don't bother with treating weeds in the grass fields. Probably worse for the cows to feed them grass that's been sprayed with weed killer than it is to feed them grass that's got a few weeds mulched up in it. Hopefully the corn has germinated. Park up and check. Yep, so the corn's germinated. We need to get some more nitrogen on this field. I think we will be using the Patriot for that. So let's run back over to the yard. We're going to jump in the little Fendt because we haven't done really anything with that little guy since we stripped the front loader off. We'll get the grass all windrowed up, and then I think I'm not sure how much I'm going to get. I'm going to use the loading wagon at first, and we're going to stick it in the nearest silo that you can see over there. Hopefully we will fill that. That thing holds 300,000 litres. I don't know how many bushels that is. 28 bushels. 280 bushels? 2,000 bushels? I don't know. Hopefully we will at least fill that, because we need a lot of grass, as I keep saying. If we fill that, then I'll go switch to making bales. I'm going to be making big bales on here. I need to decide how big. I haven't yet. More because of the issue of the lag that having lots of bales around will create, although I will be putting in a shed to store them in, which stops them being actual physical bales. Wrong way. Where's our grass equipment from here? Through here. Yeah, it'll just make life easier. We're going to be mixing TMR in the hundreds of thousands of litres a day, probably. The TMR mixing silo that I'm looking at holds 250,000 litres. So having 4,000 litre bales is just not going to work. I think this little guy can run the windrower. Should be able to. Thinking that I might just about, if I can get this ground leveled off slightly, we might be able to fit the TMR silo in here. It has that issue where it doesn't store the TMR when you save and exit, so we'll need to move it either into any spare that we have, either into the silo just here. By mod welting that, we can stick 300,000 litres in, or if we have a lot spare, we'll have to take it over to our big silo. So we could set it up over there. I guess in between the two, we've got the big silage pits that we'll be using. There are the 2 silage fermenters behind me as well. My plan for those is probably to drop a little bit of the chaff we get off the cornfields in there, certainly, so we can get some silage slightly quicker. They ferment quicker than the silage pit will. And maybe if we have, depending on how much grass we get off here, and then when we cut the big grass field, if we have some spare grass that we don't need to make into hay, that will be going straight into those so that we can get an early batch of TMR out. It would be good to start getting the girls on TMR soon so that they can be getting healthy for when they have their first calf and start making us some milk. I know this tractor is quite European, but it's one of my favourite little tractors in the game. I'm not certain if it's exactly the same one as I had on Sandy Bay, but it's very similar, and I love that little thing. I did a lot of hours in that little tractor, spraying and fertilising and doing grass work. Feeding the cows. Obviously on here, with the scale of farm that we have, there's not going to be a huge amount this little guy can do, so if he can help with some grass work, I'm all for that. Obviously, as I said, we've got quite a bit of money sitting in the bank now. Once the food situation is more settled, I want to fill at least 2 more pens up with the 112 cows or whatever. I think that's what it is that I've got in them. The reason that I'm not completely filling them is obviously the cows are going to have calves to produce milk. All of the bull calves will be going off, well, most of them will be going off to the meat factory. That pays better for a newborn calf. That pays better than selling it straight away, and saves us the problem of feeding extra heads of cattle that aren't going to give us any milk. It's a cruel, cold world, but hey, I like steak. Who doesn't? Yeah, we're way off of that yet. We're only on day 4. Once I get this grass rode up and the cotton planted, I was about to say I'll probably speed things up, but we'll probably have a grass field to cut then. One of the things that the money from the contracts should allow us to do is to replace our our slightly European mowing setup with a swather. That's the word. I had a bit of a mental block then. Obviously, when I had all the issues in the last proper episode of this series, I removed the McDon swather. and then had a hissy fit that it was a Titan that was causing me problems, and actually all along it was that white tractor. It was the white workhorse. If you watched the time-lapse video, you will have seen the little field bosses did an awesome job planting potatoes. We may have to get one of those on the farm if we need another small tractor, or maybe we think about the Fent leaving at some point. I think the field boss has more horsepower than the Fent, so it's probably going to be more versatile, but not versatile. Yeah, it'll be more useful probably for, we're going to be dragging around big trailers full of feed. Completely lost my train. Swather, yeah, so we might be able to get a swather with some of the cash, maybe even before we cut the grass field. I need to find and add that back in. I completely deleted it from my mods folder when things were going wrong. And it would be quite cool to try something like that. I've never used a swather. So we'll just be using it for grass work. Got the combine for the drid scale, and we'll be using the forage harvester for the corn. The other thing that I'm thinking about doing already, and I don't know if I will be able to afford it. There are two things actually. One is to look for more land, because I'm still nervous about how much grass we're going to have. It would be really nice if my neighbours would let me mow some of the headlands around their fields for them. We may have to, you know, kind of have a word with them about that as an option. The other option is I need to buy another field and plant more grass. That is a lot of hay ahead of us though. But I'm really tempted to get a... We can't afford a quad track yet. I priced one up and it's about $750,000. But maybe something like a new big Magnum. Some kind of big wheeled tractor. The issue we have at the moment is, particularly as I like doing contracts, and something that I was meaning to do possibly is to send the 9190 off on another seeding contract, is we can't run all of our kit at once. Particularly if we're mowing with the loading wagon, we're going to probably need to put the Magnum on that, which means we then can't run the planter or the cultivator. And we don't actually have a real... We've got the anhydrous bar field master thing. So we're really kind of... Although two big tractors, they're both fairly big tractors, at least for me, is usually a good amount to have on a farm. I think actually we probably need more, particularly longer term. The other thing that I'm really keen on is getting a second harvester, probably even before we get into harvest season. The reason that I like doing contracts is it brings the map to life a bit more when the fields are actually planted. And the other benefit is, of course, you get harvesting contracts. And as I spoke about previously, we're going to need lots of straw. We will get into bedding the cows with straw. Might be a bit of a faff, but we'll work a way of doing it efficiently. And then again, we'll have to work out a way to muck them out efficiently. I think the manure piles up in the corral, so we'll need to work a way of getting that out into the BGA that we're probably going to be able to build later today. It might be a good experiment for courseplay, I think. See whether we can get courseplay to do that for us. So yeah, there's lots of things that I want to spend money on, and although we have $800,000, I don't think that is going to go very far, particularly as land is fairly expensive. And I've realised that crop prices around here are not awesome. I've set it on to easy economic difficulty, which is not what I normally play on, but the crop pricing is pretty harsh on this map, so I don't think the cotton is going to be the mega cash payout that it would be on a lot of other maps. We should probably get GPS running at this point. Which is not the best point to start it, but... And I'll stop waffling in a minute and stick on a time lapse, I think. Looks sort of okay. Yeah, as I was saying, I don't think the cotton is going to be the mega payout that I thought it was going to be. Obviously, my farming consultant, Mighty Mike, is doing a lot of cotton farming around us, and he's making maybe $11,000 a bale. Some other people that I've watched that are farming in the area are making similar amounts of money, and we might make $50,000 or $100,000 off the field of cotton, but that's not going to pay back a $15 million bank loan now, is it? So I think now is probably a good point to jump into a time lapse. It's going to be hard to montage this because I've got to drive it all. So we'll find some music to put on, and I will be back in some amount of time. I'll probably windrow everything up, but like I did with mowing the grass, and we'll come back and we'll look at breaking the loading wagon out and getting this in the silo. So I will be back very shortly.
We got our windows down, driving down the 405, sing along to the radio. We're gonna make it someday, nothing's gonna get in our way. We will be the biggest band in town. Round and round the world we'll go, putting on the greatest show. So make sure that you don't miss out, just be there. We're taking our shot, bring what you got. We're going all the way to the top. We will hear the sound of 1 million people screaming our names when we're backstage. We'll play loud, surfing the crowd. Everybody's jumping around. Yeah, that's the place where I wanna be. Going on stage, headline on a Saturday night. Oh, 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 Saturday night. Oh, oh, oh. I'm gonna quit my job.
So we're just coming up to the end of getting all this grass windrowed up. I'm feeling a little bit less worried about how much grass we've got now. There seems to be a lot here. Some of the swaths are really big. I'm also slightly nervous about the fact that we have a loading wagon that's only 34,000 litres. Should probably got something bigger, and we may have to look at upgrading that fairly soon. Something that I'm probably going to do for the main grass field is maybe actually get a pickup header to run on the New Holland forage harvester, and then we can dump it straight into some trailers to get it into one of the silos. Unless we do bales. Both are options. I don't actually know if I've got the bale sheds that I want to use installed. I probably will put some of them in the little sheds that we've been using. So that's everything windrowed up. Anyway, yeah, I'm really not sure how we're going to handle the volume of grass we're going to get through on here. We also will need a bigger windrower, I think. It's not bad size. We have a lot of land that we're mowing for grass, and I want more land to mow for grass. I was looking at field 5 or field 3, just the other side of the road. I think it's field 3, and both are about $950,000. They would be a good point to expand to, and they have a lot of land around them that we could plough in and turn into a really big grass field. It's very dependent on how much grass we get off field 14, I guess, as to whether I am still thinking that we need more land for grass. Also wishing that I'd set the 9190 off on a contract already. Probably have a look when we get this. We'll get the windrow back over to the farm. I might save washing it for the end of the day. We'll jump in the loading wagon. Massey will probably pull the loading wagon, I think. If not, we might need to use the Magnum. And we'll just start filling up the hay silo and see how we get on with that. Probably do with putting a track, maybe through the middle of this to link up to the track that finishes here. I do still plan, come the end of it'll be after third cut, we'll plough some of the grass in that we've got, either to make some of the fields bigger or just to turn them into real grass that we can fertilise. Hopefully up the yield a little bit. We'll park this next to the loading wagon. Yes, not a very big loading wagon. Anyway, let's jump in the Massey. The Massey's getting quite a lot of work actually on the farm. With it being our main feeder tractor, backs up my my earlier comments about needing another tractor on the farm for helping out with the field work. So guesses for how much grass we're going to get off of all of this. I think we're at least going to fill the silo that we've got. I think we're looking at least 300,000 litres. Which is 10 loads with the loading wagon. We'll have to see how the Massey handles the weight of this once it's loaded up. It looks kind of big on the back. If we struggle, we'll just grab the Magnum and we'll run that. So let's drop the pickup down, switch her on, and get a crack in. I have to admit, I was expecting the I was expecting the Triticale to be further along than it is. I guess that's a function of the fact that we spent quite a lot of time on day 3 of seasons, in the kind of mid-spring, so it was only, we planted it on the end of early spring, so it's not really had that long in the ground, I guess. It just feels like longer because I've played quite a lot of hours on here, maybe. I don't know. I guess we'll just see how it goes. Going back to custom TMR mixes, I'm planning to add in grains as well. It seems fairly common that a lot of farms everywhere feed some grain. So we'll be putting, we'll be putting some amount of grain into the mix. Probably somewhere around no more than 15%. That's similar to what Maize Plus allows. Particularly as the prices for grain isn't great here in Texas, so it would probably make sense to feed it to the cattle instead. It'll make everything else go a bit further. It'll give the cows a nice energy boost. And we're not far off being full here already. Something that I have noticed is that the texture for hay bales seems a bit strange. I expect hay with seasons And even the bales to be this kind of nice golden colour. But the hay bales are coming out very green. I don't know if that's a function of the map or not. It's something I noticed that's different. We are full. So let's see how we tip into this silo. I don't actually know if I need to do anything with it. I don't think it's a global company's silo. So first guess, we will just pull up out front. Yeah, I think to unload we have to get out and set it up so that it's in unload mode. I'm expecting, there we go. Yeah, so we get the hay coming back out is very green as well. Strange. Anyway, so we are going to stick something like 9 loading wagons full of hay into here. I'm also going to fill up the cow pens with hay. It seems silly to be collecting a load of hay up and then instantly feeding it to the cows when we know they desperately need it. In fact, actually, I may put the next load straight in. I think each pen will take at least 1 loading wagon full, if not more. And it's going to be a few days before we're making TMR, so it makes sense to fill it up. Obviously, with seasons, you can only put 2 days worth of feed in. We've been struggling to put a day's worth of feed in at a time. So yeah, it makes sense to fill those up, I think. Anyway, enough chattering again. I'm going to get this done. I'll time-lapse some of it so you can see how we get on. We seem to be getting quite so much of a yield off this section. So maybe my guess of 300,000 litres was wrong. We'll see. I will see you all in a very little while.
I just wanna play my rock and roll like they do on the radio. Tommy's got brand new drums, and I still have my old guitar. And John said this next song's gonna be real good, if you know what I mean. Round and round the world we'll go, putting on the greatest show. So make sure that you don't miss out, just be there. We're taking our shot, bring what you got. We're going all the way to the top. We will hear the sound of 1 million people screaming our names when we're backstage. We'll play.
Just finishing up this side of the farm. We've still got the area over by the house. And this is loading wagon number 6. I put 1 straight into the silo, which I think I did for you a little while ago. Well, for you probably seconds ago, for me a little while ago. And then I put in 1 and a bit loads into each of the cattle pens. They take just over 50,000 litres worth of hay for the day. It's been so long since I've not played with maize. Plus, I think that will be the same for TMR. It's not worth taking this over to the other site just to pick up a couple of thousand litres of hay. So we're going to tip this into the silo as load number 6. Looking possible that we will get more than 10 loads. I'm probably going to stick the Magnum on as well, because it's a bit of a longer journey carting from over there. And actually, a big chunk of the time is running backwards and forwards to the barn, the silo. But I think actually we'll do it as we come past here. Seems like a fairly sensible idea. We'll park the Massey up in the shed. God, she needs a wash. And we'll grab the Magnum. I'm not sure this is ideal with the jewels on the back, but hey, it goes quicker. The Massey wasn't struggling at all for power, really. And the size of the loading wagon has not been too bad. It's not filled up too quickly. I've slowed time down now just because I would like to get this done and still have a bit of time left in the afternoon to probably get the cotton in the ground. The air temps are up to 63 Fahrenheit. We need a slightly higher ground temp, but I'm sure that will come now that the air temps have warmed up. So we're probably going to get that cotton in the ground today. That'll be the end of planting for us. I have picked up, but haven't started yet, a seeding contract on field 23, which is another big round fields. That's a $100,000 contract that we need to get the case working on. Not this case, obviously, the 9190 with the air cart at some point. But I'm kind of focused on getting this hay collected up and just seeing how much we've got. So I thought I would check in before I move over to the other farm. I suspect actually we might be more effective going out on the road to do this. What traffic speed's like around here. He's going at a fair clip. I don't think we're going to get out ahead of him. It's nice having the cows fully fed, even if it is only with hay and not TMR. It will be nice to get to the end of the day and not have to worry if the food will last the whole day. Can we stick an overtake on him before we meet the oncoming traffic and have to turn into the next yard? I think we can. I wouldn't want to be the car coming the other way. But the benefit, I guess, if we had bales, is we could grab one of my ever favourite auto load bale trailers to go on the back of the semi, and obviously be running bales backwards and forwards a lot quicker. And if we're making, I'm thinking about making at least 10,000 litre bales. You know, so a trailer that holds 30 bales, I think is what they hold, would probably be all of the hay that we've cut this time round. In comparison to, we are on now filling up loading wagon number 7. Anyway, this is going to be time-lapse because I'm not sure how many loads I'm going to get off of here, and I may not even time-lapse all of it, because if it's a lot, we'll be doing a lot of carting, and we couldn't get that a little bit there. So I'll stick the music back on and be back shortly.
Surfing the crowd, everybody's jumping around. Yeah, that's the place where I wanna be. Going on stage headline on a Saturday night. Saturday night. Round and round the world we'll go, putting on the greatest show. So make sure that you don't miss out, just be there. Oh, just be there. We're taking our shot, bring what you got. We're going all the way to the top. We will hear the sound of 1 million people screaming our names when we're backstage. We'll play loud, surfing the crowd. Everybody's jumping around. The place where I wanna be, going on stage headline on a Saturday night.
So we are pretty much done picking up the grass. I think we've got about 2.5 rows left to do. We are on 9 loads so far with the loading wagon, so I was pretty close on my guess. 9 loads is about 306,000 litres. One of those was a little bit short. Pretty sure we're well over 300,000 litres of hay that we've now collected. Obviously a bunch of that went into the cows. So far the silo is not saying it's full. I'm not sure how to tell how much is in there. I don't know if it shows up in the menu. It does. It shows up as 29 tons. The problem is that our big silo will also take hay. So it doesn't really show us how much we've got in the silo of what it can hold. And hay's quite light, so that's hard to know. I'm just trying to think how much. We probably put a good 130,000 litres in the cows, so we should have space to get this last bit in, which would be cool. I think we are going to get through where we are now with the cows, about 75,000 litres of hay a day. So what we've got in the silo will be a good 4 days worth of feed. We're probably going to have to make hay out of all of the first cut off of field 14. Maybe then we'll look at whether we can make some silage or not from it. I'm thinking that we might need to build another set of silos to put hay in, or maybe get a hay barn to replace the hay barn that doesn't work. It might be useful. I'm not a fan of purely decorative buildings on the farm, so maybe we'll get that one demolished and get a hay barn built. But although I'm running in tons and bushels and things, I have a handy PDA app running in top left hand corner, which is telling me how many litres I've got, which helps my brain, mostly for when I'm running courseplay and stuff, so I can see when things run out of seed. We've got about 20,000 litres on here, so in total we've got 325,000 litres of hay off of the kind of headlands and random scrubby areas of grass that we've got. So that's not bad. I think by the time we've cut field 14, and then once we get the corn silage in as well, we should be good for feed with what we've got. We should be good for feed. So as with every other video in this series I've made so far, I actually have no idea how long this is so far. My plan, once we've got this unloaded, I'm going to drop the loading wagon off by the grasswork shed. I don't fancy trying to back it in on the Magnum, and we're going to get set up to go and plant the cotton. As I've said, the air temps are well up, the soil temps are creeping up. We're up to 55, so I think we're probably good to go for getting the cotton in the ground. It will germinate in the next day or so. And then after that, next time we can probably move on to doing a little bit of field work with the Patriot, getting a bit of fertilizing done on Triskel's done, so the corn needs fertilizing, the cotton will need a bit of fertilizer. It's not a crop that relies heavily on nitrogen, which is why I haven't run the anhydrous setup over that field. We're just going to let it germinate and then give it a spray with some liquid fertilizer. But we'll need to weed, so we'll need to get some herbicide going and some liquid fertilizer going on a few fields. We'll probably find then that field 14 is nearly ready to cut. So we're going to be busy. We've still got that contract that is open that we've yet to get the 9190 going on. And might actually jump in and get that started before we get into planting our own cotton. That probably seems like a good idea. Now, this guy's fault. I'm going to set it to cotton now so I don't forget. And we'll switch that off. We'll get this guy refilled. I'm not actually sure what the contract is for us to plant. It is for barley. I love this setup. I do like this setup. having run it a fair bit more, admittedly mostly on Courseplay, doing that time-lapse video, it eats up fields. The nice thing about running it on Courseplay as well is we can turn the fertilization off because they're paying us to seed it, not fertilize it. We can maybe make some money off them in the future fertilizing it. We've got the Patriot and the Titan, and I'm betting fertilizing contracts on here pay really well. Actually, let's have a look. Have we got any yet? No. We're still in the kind of early phases of planting and cultivating and ploughing. We don't really have a good setup for cultivating, and we only have one tractor that's really big enough to run the plough properly, which is the 9190, and seeding pays better because you have to pay for seeds. I spent a lot of money on seeds in that stint of contracting work. How do I get to field 23? If I go around the bottom of field 12 and past field 13. So this field is an interesting field because it has a big washout in it as well. We'll see it when we get over there. I'm hoping that a full load of seed is enough to get this all planted or seeded. If not, we'll stick the Massey back on the auger wagon and run that over. It's still half full of seed, and obviously we need to empty that out before we get to harvest season, which is a fair way off yet, let's be honest. We're not even through spring. I'm on keyboard today rather than using the controllers, which is why the steering's a bit twitchy in the 9190. I have tried to slow it down a little bit so it's not quite so bad, and at least I'm not speeding it up in a time lapse. Anyway, I'll be back when we get over to the field. It didn't actually take as long as I expected to drive over here. We're going to see, I guess, if Courseplay will behave around the pivot again. It was fine on some of the other fields, so I'm hoping it will be on this one as well. Get ourselves into the field and unfolded. While that unfolds, we'll fire up Courseplay. So we want course generation. Is this field defined yet? It is not. I'm finding that quite a lot of the fields that don't have their field path calculated yet. But Courseplay is easy to fix with that. So just add that as field 23. Generation field 23. I've been running 3 headlands with this setup and a bit more overlap like I kind of normally do. We want to skip rows. Will that actually tell us how much barley seed we're going to need? 26,000 litres. Okay. Generate course. That seems to have coped. I'm not sure about that bit running down there. Wonder if we go to 3 headlands. That doesn't really look any better. We'll stick with 2, and we might just have to come back and help it out if it gets stuck. So that's good. I'm going to save that because there is a chance we won't finish. We only have 10,000 litres of seed on board, so we are going to need to bring the auger wagon over. We've got seed, also we've got fertilisation off. Back up a little bit and set that guy going. He's going to take about an hour, so yeah, I'm definitely not going to be playing for another hour, as I have stuff I need to go and do, and I'll probably just have a little kind of pause. What I'm curious of, yeah, so as you can see on the Courseplay map, it does take out the washed out area of the field. Awesome. So he's going, he's going to earn us $105,000 minus what we have to pay George in his wages, so we'll just let him run. think if we go that way, we'll worry about getting the seed tender over there later. And we are going to get into running the early rise, planting some cotton. So we're full, we're on cotton. Okay. The other thing that we can do now is, now that we've got the hay off of the area just over there, we can get the BGA built that we were planning to do. So we will give the contractors a call, get them to come over and see what they can do for us. Just show you in, it's under silos, it might not be. Yeah, so we're looking at getting this guy built. We'll probably need a digestate extension tank, I suspect, because we've got a lot of manure that we'll be putting through there. So that's going to be what, $52,000-ish. The other thing that we are going to get installed now is the solar panels. We're going for the big solar panels, so these are $150,000. But they earn us a nice chunk of cash. They're going to pay for themselves fairly quickly, I think. And if you watched the previous proper episodes, you'll know we're doing that to help out the investors with some kind of positive PR from an environmental point of view. I'm not sure where we're going to put the solar panels yet. I think maybe if we have access to the land in front of us, the low patch that's there, we may get some contractors in to backfill and pave over that and stick them in there. It's probably a nice spot to put them. The other option is we could hook them up over by their house and run some of our own appliances off it, or maybe even back over by the sheds, or the over by the cow yard to power some of the stuff over there. I think this is going to be a pretty darn long job. So what I'm going to do is probably jump into some sort of time lapse, work out how much I've actually got recorded, and therefore how much more we want to record of this, or whether I just time lapse a big chunk of it and get some of it done off camera. Field 12 seems to be the off camera field. I ploughed it off camera. Obviously we got the Titan to lime it while we were planting the corn. And getting cotton in the ground is going to take a while, even though this is the bigger of the early rice planters that are available at the moment. I believe there is a bigger one in design at the moment, which we would probably benefit from an upgrade on. We don't want to go green. But as much as the dealer is green and is pushing his green tractors on us, we're going to stick with Case. So yeah, I will jump into time-lapse or a montage again and check back with you at some point in the future. We're just coming up to finishing our first headland here on field 12. We've used 30% of the seed already, so it's handy that the seed bin is not far away, because we're going to get through quite a lot of seed, I think. Also had a look at how much video I've captured so far for this episode, and I think it's probably going to be another good solid 40+ minute job at this point. So I'm going to finish off the planting of this field as a time lapse, and just run that at the end of the video with a bit of music, just for those that are interested in seeing how long it takes us to get this job done and how much seed we get through. I'm sitting at 5.3 hours at the moment on the Case. I'm going to run 2 headlands because parts of the field there is not a lot of room outside of the field boundary to get us turned around. The 9190 is on its second headland and has already used over half of the seed that's in it, so we're definitely going to have to refill that at least a few times. But that's a big field, and the nice thing about things like barley contracts, and there's a nice big wheat seeding contract as well, is if we can pick the harvesting contracts up And if we can manage to finance that second combine, we're going to have a nice setup for running those harvesting contracts for the guys that seem to have lots of land but no equipment. That will really help us out later in the year, both with straw, from getting the straw off the field, because no one ever seems to want their own straw. We may give them a bit of a discount on the contract for taking the straw off their hands. And there'll be some excess grain that they don't want, which, depending on how we're sitting for cattle feed, we can feed to the ladies, or we can sell on for a little bit of extra income. Anyway, that just leaves me to say thanks for watching, everyone. If you've made it this far, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Leave me a like, leave me a comment. Did I say about subscribing? I think I did. Turn on notifications. Do that. You'll get notifications for my pretty much daily farm sim videos. Share the video. I think that helps with the whole YouTube algorithm, hitting that share button. And I will catch you next time here on West Texas. Thanks, folks.